Welcome to this brief presentation on an insight into the night of power, or Laylatul Qadr, or Qadr, whichever term you wish to use, it's okay. I'll be using the term night of power just because it is the English term and it seems to be acceptable by everybody. This has grown from a very humble presentation done a few years ago in Stanmore Jamaat. The youth group there are called the Stanmore Jafaris, and they requested me to present something on this topic, and since then it's grown, alhamdulillah, year by year. We've added new things, and this is the second time we've done it with respected Sheikh Hasnain and Ali Academy of Learning Islam. If you can all follow the slides, which are going to be changed by me on the screen, then we will now start the course properly. So first of all, I would like to request that we have a few prerequisites for this discussion. This discussion has a number of principles behind it. And the more we pay attention to these principles, we will get more out of it, inshallah. So the first thing is that when we come to things like Qadr, Laylatul Qadr, the night of power, we cannot really just turn up at the mosque on that night and then expect to be flooded by spirituality and forgiveness and mercy and grace. Yes, these things are all there. But the most powerful thing in any ibadat and any act of worship is the attitude of the person before they go to that worship. Take namaz, take fasting, take prayers, take hajj. You cannot simply just turn up and expect yourself to be spiritually charged, especially if you do not lead a life which is spiritually charged. So whatever we do in preparation for Laylatul Qadr is going to benefit us on that night. So the more effort we put in, the more fruitful this seminar will be, and also our Qadr as well. The second thing is that we will be talking in this seminar a lot about manifest and hidden things. So in Islam, we know that there are a number of manifest things. At the same time, there are also hidden things. Every act we do, every belief we have, every dua, every ziyarat, every ayat of the Quran has a manifest side to it and a hidden side to it. So we'll be talking about these kinds of things. If you want an example of this, you may recall the dua we recited on the very first day of Mahe Ramzan. It's a wonderful dua. I wonder how many people actually ponder and reflect upon it. In that dua we say, Allahumma ja'al siyami siyam as-sa'imin. Oh Allah, make my fasting the fasting of those who fast. Wa qiyami qiyam al-qa'imin. And make my standing in prayer the standing of those who stand. Meaning that it's very possible for a person to do the apparent and manifest deeds, but not have the hidden side of it at all. It's very possible that I stand for prayer, but my prayer is not one of those prayers of the musallin, those who truly pray. My fast, I may be hungry and thirsty, but it's not of those who are the sa'imin. My night vigil may be staying up at night, but it is not one of that of the qa'imin. So we have a hidden and a manifest side to our ibadat. Therefore, on Laylatul Qadr, turning up at mosque, putting the Quran on your head, doing the tasbih, etc., etc., does not mean that you have experienced Laylatul Qadr. And finally, metaphysics and senses. Now, in this regard, we have two sides to us. We have our bodies, which are primarily inputting information and experiences through the five senses. And we have a soul as well, which is metaphysical. It's beyond physical. So our discussions are going to be very much based on metaphysics and the soul. Sometimes we are unwilling or unable to understand things of the soul because our minds are too much connected to the physical world. Or sometimes, Imam Khomeini often said this, He said, we have stubbornness and unwillingness to think about things in a spiritual manner because we have not been brought up like that. We've been brought up as very much performing the outer ritual, which is good, but it's not the full story. So sometimes through stubbornness and unwillingness, we ignore the spiritual side. So now going on to the principles of this structure. Now let me show you the structure of our presentation. We are going to discuss some core principles. Then the first part of the discussion will be what is the Night of Power. After that, we'll go into part 2, which is how can we interact with the Night of Power and benefit from the Night of Power. The first thing to say is 2 principles without which we cannot continue the discussion. The first thing is we must understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created this universe in a very beautiful way. And He has created it in 3 levels. Now, this is very philosophical and spiritual, which I don't want to go into great depth because we won't have time, but I will just summarize it as best as I can. So the 3 dimensions or the 3 different realms or worlds which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created are known as dunya, barzakh and akhirah or akhirat. Dunya is where we are at the moment. We are living in this 3-dimensional world. Barzakh is the intermediary realm between dunya and qayamat or day of judgment, and akhirah is what we term as qayamat or day of judgment or the life hereafter. Now what happens is these 3 worlds interact with each other to some extent. So you may have often wondered, for example, regarding these fortune tellers and palm readers and tarot card specialists and these mediums that can pass you messages from the dead. How do they do it? Because sometimes you have to admit that they seem to have caught on to something. So how are they doing it? Well, this is just a side issue, but it's very interesting. So let me say it as we go along. If you look at Suratul Jinn, the first maybe 10 verses of Suratul Jinn talk about something like this. So what they say is, the Jinn begin to narrate that we have heard a wonderful Quran which calls us to our Lord. And this Quran tells us not to ascribe any partners. Then it goes on in verse number 6 that there was a time when humans would seek the protection of some of the jinns. And then it goes on to say that we used to be able to travel to the edges of the sky and hear the news of the life of the barzakhi realm. You see, what happens is, in barzakh, time is different to our time. Time is jumbled up. You can see things in different times. You can see future events. You can see past events. You can see all of these things. So what used to happen was, the jinn are saying in this surah that we used to be able to go to the edges of this world, and we used to be able to pick up some of the conversations of the angels who used to talk about future events, and we used to steal those information, or we used to hear those information and bring them back down to the people of the world. Now at the Holy Prophet's time, there were some people, they were known as kahin. These were your very mystical, very disturbing type of people who would specialize in future telling and these kinds of things. So the jinns would pass information to these people, and these people used to tell others about their futures. And of course it became a business, and it still is a big business. Many people are doing it, sometimes even under the disguise of religion. So what happens is, these 3 worlds are very closely related to each other but separate. So dunya, barzakh and akhirah. And our discussion is going to be involving all of these 3 different worlds and how Laylatul Qadr is part of this world, but we have to take some things from the other world to understand Laylatul Qadr. So there is an access that is available between these different worlds. Now the interesting thing is that what happened, that the jinns then said that now we can no longer go there and we can no longer hear these conversations. What they say is, Now when we go there, we find it full of mighty guards and flames. We are chased by these flames. They don't let us go there anymore and listen to these news of the next life. And that is one of the barakat of our beloved Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that when he was born, this access of the jinn to that news of the hereafter was restricted, as were many other things. But we don't have time to go into those things at the moment. In any case, let us move on with our discussion. The Barzakhi realm has more knowledge and more capability and more scope and potential than dunya. Akhirat has more capability, scope and potential than Barzakh. So as you move forward through the world, the scope and the potential and the ability and capability of those places are larger. Now that's very important to understand, and I'll show you why in a minute. The second thing is, going on the slide, our senses and veils, they shield us from these realities. What are veils? You've heard of Nurani, Hujub Dhulmani, light veils, dark veils. This is very, very interesting topic and discussion, which we don't have the time to go into at the moment, but maybe on another occasion we could do something about this, because this is very, very fascinating. What veils are upon us? Why are these veils there? How do we get rid of the veils? Anyway, human beings will find that they have veils upon them to different levels for different people, and these veils shield us from the realities. Quran says, as you can see on the slide, يَعْلَمُونَ ظَاهِرًا مِنَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَهُمْ عَنِ الْآخِرَةِ هُمْ غَافِلُونَ, regarding the life of this world in itself. They only know an apparent nature. They don't even know the full nature of this world. وَهُمْ عَنِ الْآخِرَةِ هُمْ غَافِلُونَ, and they are very heedless about the life hereafter, let alone this world. The next core principle, and this is the last one, is that Quran, because our discussion is Laylatul Qadr, and Laylatul Qadr and Quran go together. Quran itself is بَلْ هُوَ قُرْآنٌ مَجِيدٌ فِي لَوْحٍ مَحْفُوظٍ. This is a glorious Quran in a guarded tablet. What is guarded tablet? So Quran, we know, it is the thing in our hands, it is the book in our hands, it is the 140 surahs, it is the 30 siparas that we know and we recite from. That is Quran. But it is in a guarded tablet, Lawh Mahfuz. What is Lawh Mahfuz? Allama Tabatabai, Rahmatullah alayhi, may Allah shower him with his grace and mercy, says that in short, when we say Lawh Mahfuz or Kitabun Mubin, manifest book, then it is the foundation of this Quran. This Quran that we have in our hands is a clothing of that reality and that foundation. Okay? Ayatollah Ma'rifat, another late scholar who was an expert in the Quran, he says Lawh Mahfuz represents the eternal divine knowledge, or the source of all learning. So what we understand from this is that somewhere in the Akhirat, okay, there is this Lawh Mahfuz, this guarded tablet, which is basically the mother book. It is the source. It is the absolute depth of knowledge. It is something that Allah wants us to think about. He wants to show us His magnificence, His power, and His knowledge. And He's saying that I have this wonderful treasure with me. This guarded tablet or Lawh Mahfuz is a representative of all knowledge, all learning, all source of all learning. Now what happens is we get a reduced, summarized version of that, which is the Quran. So you see now how the other worlds are larger in scope, that they can house something called Lawh Mahfuz, and how this dunya cannot take that Lawh Mahfuz. Lawh Mahfuz cannot exist here. What can exist here is Quran, which is in our hands. So that gives us a little bit more appreciation of what Quran is exactly. It is a summary of that Lawh Mahfuz. Therefore, let us conclude this initial part. Quran was revealed from the source, known as guarded tablet. Guarded tablet exists in its truest form in the higher realm. To reveal that knowledge to us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had to send down that information. And that sending down is the Quran. And Quran exists in a form that is befitting this world. This world has to have the Quran in terms of words and sentences and paper and pages. That has to be the form of Quran in this world, because that is the form that it can exist in this world. Therefore, now we can understand a little bit more about those stories we hear about the Holy Prophet, how intense the revelation was, how sublime was his experience, how miraculous the nature of revelation is, and how Quran has withstood the test of time, because it comes from that treasure trove of knowledge which is in the Akhirat. We go now on to part 1. What is Laylatul Qadr? So here you'll see a few points that I've noted down. The typical things that we understand from Laylatul Qadr. We know it's to do with revelation. When is Laylatul Qadr? That is a very important question that many people ask, because we have a number of times that we hear Quran was revealed. Iqra bismi. When was it revealed? It was revealed on Laylatul Mab'ath. So why is Night of Power Laylatul Qadr? So we will discuss this. What does Qadr mean? What does it mean that it's better than 1,000 months? The angels, tanazzalul malaikatu war ruh, the orders of the Lord, and salamun hiya hatta matla'il fajr. So all of these things we are going to discuss. So the first point is, let us discuss revelation. We know from the Quran that there are two types of revelation. If you look at these verses on the slide, you'll see that these two verses refer to a all-in-one revelation. Anzalnahu, and in the next verse again, Inna anzalnahu fi laylatin mubarakah. Anzalna comes from the root inzal. Inzal suggests a one-off entire revelation in one go. Okay? Whereas the next two verses, Qur'anan faraqnahu litaqra'ahu 'ala an-nasi 'ala mukthin wa nazzalnahu tanzila. Here there is no mention of inzal. Here the last word is tanzil. These are two different derivations of the same root. Inzal of the previous verse showed a one-off, all-in-one revelation. The whole thing was revealed in one go. We have this verse then, which tells us that no, actually, we also did a gradual revelation. We did have a one-off revelation, and we also did a gradual revelation. The one-off revelation refers to Laylatul Qadr. Gradual revelation refers to every instance in the Prophet's life when the verses were revealed, at different moments, in different times, for different reasons. Iqra bismi is one of those. Next verse again, telling us that the Quran is revealed in small part so that Allah can strengthen the heart of the Holy Prophet. And it is rehearsed to you in well-arranged gradual stages. Suratul Furqan. Hence we have two types of revelation. We have inzal and we have tanzil. Regarding Shab-e Qadr, here we are talking about inzal, an all-in-one revelation by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the place of revelation. Now, the question I've put there is, where does this revelation take place? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done inzal. Where to? We have two opinions here. Some of the Mufassirin say it is to the heart of the Holy Prophet. The whole of the Quran on Laylatul Qadr in its inzal form was revealed to the heart of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Some have said no. They have evidence to say that it was revealed to the sky of the world, asmane dunya, dunya no asman. Because from there then it was taken in bits and revealed gradually. So these are two opinions which exist amongst the Mufassirin. Next issue regarding Laylatul Qadr. When is or was the night of power, Laylatul Qadr? So the first thing we know is that Laylatul Qadr is linked to revelation of Quran. The next piece of evidence we find is in the Quran, Shahru Ramadan alladhi unzila fihi al-Quran. Now we piece together. Laylatul Qadr is linked to Quran. Quran is linked to Mahi Ramzan. So now we know that Laylatul Qadr is in Mahi Ramzan. So, now we come to the next question which people usually ask me. If night of power has already taken place, it was done in the time of the Prophet. Rasulullah had the revelation of the Quran. Allah revealed Quran in its inzal form. Then why do we mark it every year? Was it just not a one-off? So what we answer is no. Laylatul Qadr was the container or the receptacle which the Quran needed to be revealed to the Holy Prophet. So the night of power takes place every year. Revelation is an event which took place on that night, but it did not cause that night to become the night of power. That night was already the night of power, and it remains the night of power, even though now we do not say that the Holy Quran is revealed on that night to the Holy Prophet. The Holy Prophet is no longer in this world, but the night of power still exists. Some evidence for this. Look at these verses. فِيهَا يُفْرَكُ كُلُّ أَمْرٍ حَكِيمٍ. It uses a present tense verb. In Arabic, this shows continuity. Laylatul Qadri khayrun min alfi shahr. Again, verb sentence. It's a jumla ismiya. It is a noun sentence structure. There is an error there. It should not be verb sentence structure. It should be noun sentence structure. Again, shows continuity. Tanazzalul malaika. Again, present tense verb shows continuity. All of these things are pointing to us to say that this is happening again and again every year. Laylatul Qadr is taking place. What is the meaning of Qadr? We have different definitions of this term. First thing is that it stands for quantities and amounts. Now you know from your Ramzan du'as that we have a similar expression in the du'a. In the Quran it says فِيهَا يُفْرَكُ كُلُّ أَمْرٍ حَكِيمٍ. In this night, every affair of wisdom is made clear. يُفْرَقُ, faraqa comes from farq, separation and distinguishing two things from one another. Therefore, one of the meanings of Qadr is determination of quantities and amounts. Another meaning is majesty or specialness, and this is based on the majesty of worship taking place and the position of the worshippers. Believe me, when mu'mineen get together and do ibadat and they dedicate themselves for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that itself causes things to become blessed and majestic. Number 3, restriction of space. The sheer number of angels, we will discuss this more, when they descend, tanazzalul malaika, the angels descend upon the earth. This creates a restriction of space, subhanallah. There are so many angels around that the earth is full of angels glorifying Allah, praying for people, answering people's hajat with the permission of Allah. So metaphysically, there is a restriction of space. Of these 3 explanations, generally, scholars have preferred the first explanation, that on the night of Qadr, we have the granting from Allah of quantities and amounts. So this could be rizq, sustenance, it could be income, it could be knowledge, it could be all sorts of things. However, we have then an ideological problem which is presenting itself. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala determines on this night what we are going to achieve or receive for the next year, then is this not predestination? Are we not forced into something? Very quickly, let us look at the answers to this so that we don't have these doubts when we experience Laylatul Qadr. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can always change anything. He can decree something and then we can do something to not be deserving of that anymore. So He can change it. Whatever he does, it's in his master plan. He knows everything. All of this is already pre-thought out. يَمْحُ اللَّهُ مَا يَشَاءُ وَيُثْبِتُ وَعِنْدَهُ أُمُّ الْكِتَابِ is the verse there. So determination of amounts is one issue, but Allah has the ability to change it. Allah has the ability to either grant it or not grant it, or later on to say, you would have received this, but you did X sin, therefore you did not get it. Other answers are that only a part of it is determined and not everything. Some things are left undetermined. Other scholars have said that only the main details are determined, not smaller details. Or finally, we can always say this, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give it to us as long as it's good for us. What if on Laylatul Qadr we were a type of person that this was good for us? 2 months down the line, billah, I've become an evil person. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, well, this same ni'mat for you now is no longer good for you. So we are fully in control of our destinies with, of course, the support of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and some things He remains in control of. If you look at the Quran and the wording of the Quran, you'll see that throughout, when it mentions Laylatul Qadr, in Surah Al-Qadr, for example, everything about that surah and the verses all seem to suggest that this is something very, very special indeed. Inna itself is extra emphasis. Anzalna, again, extra emphasis. There was no grammatical reason for Allah to say inna. He could have just said anzalna, but no, he mentions inna first. Anzalna, who? Mentioning it by its pronoun and not its name, has its own, the Quran by its pronoun and not its name, has its own eloquence. In Arabic, when you refer to something and you don't name it, and you let the listener draw the conclusion of what is this thing that is being referred to by who, that has its own emphasis. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا لَيْلَةُ الْقَدْرِ, naming it again, Laylatul Qadr. And then again, Laylatul Qadr khayrun min alfi shahr. All of these points of the Quran suggest that this is something very, very special indeed. It is better than 1,000 months because of its spiritual magnificence and the worship which is prescribed in it. This is in line with the previous verse that we had quoted, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls it Laylatun Mubarakah, a blessed night. Now, what is blessing? Sometimes we misunderstand the meaning of barakat. We think barakat is just something good. It is more than that. Barakat is blessing, meaning that if you think about an investment, a small investment that gives you a massive return is the best type of investment. That is called barakat. When your input is very little for what you're getting in return. The effort you're doing, or the time you're putting, or the money you're putting into this investment is small, but the return you're getting is massive. That is barakat. Sometimes in our own lives, we realize barakat. We say, I don't know how I'm meeting my expenses, but this is barakat. My money is lasting me longer than it should. This is barakat. I don't need to spend so much these days. This is barakat. All of these are instances of barakat. So that night is a Mubarak night, meaning that small amounts on that night are going to give us a massive amount of return. Therefore, anything done there is equal to 1,000 months. The next thing that we should be aware of is that there is a presence of angels. And the world of angels is truly intriguing. Again, this requires a session in itself. However, let me just touch upon a few things regarding the world of the angels. Now, angels are very interesting creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the same way that there are species and categories of plants and animals, in the same way that there are millions and billions of human beings, believe me, we hear and we learn from Ma'sumin that there are many, many millions more types of angels than there are of any other species or any other creature that we know. That means all the animals you can think of, all the fish, all the insects, all the plant kingdom, all the different creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are many more types of angels than there are of any other species. Allah has not created any creation that is more diverse than angels. There are different shapes, there are different sizes, there are different types, there are different roles and responsibilities. Each angel has a function, and not all angels are related to human beings. Not all angels have a function to do with human beings. There are some angels, I believe they're known as the mulhamun. They are so intoxicated with the love of Allah, and their role is just to be consumed by the love of Allah so much that they really don't know anything about this world. They don't even know that, there was someone called Adam and he was created and there are people living here. These are, wonderful creatures, and Allah has kept billions, if not trillions of these throughout the universe. In general, we view angels as those beings which create a bridge between this world and the next world. And they are, of course, completely absolved in Allah's love and they're obedient to Him. But they have their own growth and they have their own progress that they want to make. And they want to become closer and closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have some passages from the Quran which give us a very interesting insight into what the angels do. For example, if you look at Surah number 39, verse number 69, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "The earth will glow with the light of her Lord, the book will be set up, the prophets and martyrs will be brought, judgment will be made with justice, and they will not be wrong." This is a beautiful passage of the Quran describing the life hereafter. "Every soul shall be recompensed for what it has done, and He is best aware of what they do. The faithless will be driven to hell. When they reach it, the gates are opened. Its keepers will say, 'Did there not come to you any apostles from amongst you, reciting the signs of your Lord and warning you of this day?' They will say, 'Yes,' but the word of punishment will become due against those who do not have faith." And it describes so many other things about paradise and how people will go there in throngs. The gates will be opened. The keepers will say to them, "Peace be to you." These are all angels, these drivers of people, the gatekeepers, the ones who open the gates, the ones who speak to the humans. These are all angels. They will say, "All praise belongs to Allah who has fulfilled His promise to us." And then finally in that passage, I'm going through this very quickly, verse number 75 is perhaps one of the most beautiful images of the life hereafter that we have. "And you will see the angels surrounding the throne, celebrating the praise of their Lord, and judgment will be made between them with justice. And it will be said, 'All praise belongs to Allah, the Lord of the worlds.'" That seems to be a kind of final image that the Quran leaves us with of the life hereafter, of angels circling the throne of Allah in complete peace. And everyone seems to have, by that time, gone into their places that they are in the life hereafter. So this was verse 75 of Surah 39. Therefore, if we concentrate properly, we'll see that many angels are present, and they are there to do many things which we discuss. And it also gives us a little feeling, or it should give us a little bit of a feeling. I will save all the questions for the end, if that's okay. It should give us a little feeling that we need to become angelic. We are humans, we cannot become angels, but we can become angelic. We can take some of the attributes of angels: their obedience to Allah, their cleanliness, their purity, their unquestioning love, their immaterial nature. So we can become less materialistic, we can become more contemplative, we can become more thoughtful. Anyway, let me not go on about this, otherwise our time will go. I have much more to say about the angels, inshallah, maybe on another occasion. Let us move on. Then we come on to the ruh. Tanazzalul malaikatu war ruh. What is ruh? It could be angel Jibreel, He could have this special title of Ruh, because in some places he is known as Ruhul Amin. It could be Wahi, a type of revelation that is descending. Or it could be something else. It could be a creature of Allah that is beyond the angels. And in some ahadith we have this. Some imams have described that the Ruh is a special creature of Allah that has been designated as a supporter of the imams. وَصَلِّ عَلَى وَلِيِّ أَمْرِكَ الْقَائِمِ الْمُعَمَّلِ وَالْعَدْلِ الْمُنْتَظَرِ وَحُفَّهُ بِمَلَائِكَتِكَ الْمُقَرَّبِينَ وَأَيِّدْهُ بِرُوحِ الْقُدُسِ يَا رَبَّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Regarding our 12th imam, we say that strengthen him or support him with Ruhul Qudus. It could be some magnificent creature of Allah that is there to protect our imams. Next point about what is Laylatul Qadr. Orders of the Lord. The verse mentions that the angels and Ruh descend to the world to administer the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the word for Allah used is Rabb. Tanazzalul malaikatu wa ruhu is the verse, and it mentions Rabb. So Rabb is the Lord which administers. So this all fits together very nicely. Salamun hiya hatta matla'il fajr. There is peace until the breaking of dawn. What is peace? So you'll see in the Quran, peace is a wonderful concept. Quran says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, فَإِذَا دَخَلْتُمْ بُيُوتًا فَسَلِّمُوا عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ تَحِيَّةً مِّنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ مُبَارَكَةً طَيِّبَةً. When you enter houses, then say salams upon yourselves, a gift from Allah, blessed and good. Now what this means is, salam is a concept. Quran says that when you enter into a house, say salam to those in the house. But Quran does not say those in the house. Quran says say salam to yourself, meaning you and your brothers and sisters in Islam, you and your friends, you and your family members should be so close and unified, it is as if they are you. So Islam says say salam to yourself, meaning that they are so close to you, it's as if you're saying to yourself. You are so close and unified as a community and a nation and a people that do not think of them as others, think of them as yourselves. So, peace, salamun hiya hatta matla'il fajr. Peace, when we say salam alaikum to each other, we say salam so that we convey to each other that you are in peace and safety from me. I'm not here to do any harm to you. You are completely safe from me. There's no danger between us. That is salamun alaikum. Now, on the night of Qadr, we have salamun hiya hatta matla'il fajr. We have a very special type of peace. This peace is a peace that frees us from all our internal and external defects. We become free and safe from defects because we have linked to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salam from Allah is a distinct mercy and kindness for those who turn to Him. And it can also mean that the angels pass their prayers of salam to the believers who are engaged in worship. I'll explain that in a moment. So, I said that this is a very mystical discussion. Let me narrate to you two incidents from the life of Prophet Ibrahim. It is said that during the life of Prophet Ibrahim, a group of angels came to him and they gave him the glad tidings of his son. And they said salam to him. This is in the Quran as well. Hazrat Ibrahim narrates that the pleasure he received from this salam of the angels cannot be compared to this entire world. That was angels, a small group of angels saying salam to Nabi Ibrahim. Imagine the effect of the salam of the angels on Laylatul Qadr. Number two, the second incident. When he was thrown into the fire and the angels came, they came with the message of salam. Ya nar kuni bardan wa salama. They came with the message of salam, and this turned the fire into a cool garden for Ibrahim. Therefore, If there are so many angels on the night of Qadr, then it is not surprising that Allah extinguishes the fire of hell for those who are dedicating themselves on Laylatul Qadr. Again, another mystical way of looking at things is one of the hadith of the Holy Prophet. He says, "Man qara'aha u'tiya min al-ajr kaman sama Ramadana wa ahya Laylatul Qadr." Whoever recites Suratul Qadr, this is not even on Laylatul Qadr, this is just general. Whoever recites Suratul Qadr in general will be given reward like the person who has fasted the entire Ramadan and has spent his night in ibadat on Laylatul Qadr. So immense sawab of Suratul Qadr. We now go on to the second part. However, I feel maybe now would be a good time to do questions for a few minutes. Let me stop speaking for a while and we can look at the chat box to your left on the screen. We can look at some questions. The first one I can see there already. How can we feel the presence of angels? I will answer it briefly now because I have some more information on this in the next part. We can feel the presence of angels not through any physical means. It has to be through the soul. That means the soul has to be pure in order to feel the angels. If the soul is not pure, the angels cannot be felt because they are spiritual beings. So our bodies cannot interact with them. It has to be our spiritual side which interacts with them. Therefore, if we are pure and polished and purified, and we ask for forgiveness, and we undo any evil that we have done, and we make up to people anything that we have wronged, and we become a purer being, then inshallah we can start to feel the presence of angels. If there are any more questions, please feel free to write them inside the text box. I'll just wait for another 30 seconds. If there's no more questions, then we'll move on. So it could be any of the days in the last 10 days of Ramadan. Well, that's a very interesting question. It could be anywhere in the year. Some ahadith have not mentioned Ramadan itself. And some ulama have, they're so pure, some of these ulama. They said, look, we want to be sure that we have at least once in our life experienced Laylatul Qadr, right? We believe it's 19, 21, 23, one of these, okay? But we have other ahadith which say, no, actually it's one of the other nights or in another part of the year. So what these ulama have done is that they would treat every night as Laylatul Qadr, at least once in their life. So they would spend their life and they would make sure that at least once they have treated every night of the year as Laylatul Qadr, so that when they die, they they can be sure or they can feel that at least once I have definitely marked Laylatul Qadr. So it can be throughout the year. We have more evidence to say that it's in Ramadan. Then we have more evidence to say that it's in the last 10. Then we have more evidence to say that it's one of the odd nights in the last 10. Then we have more evidence to say 19, 21, and 23. And then we have even more to say it's 23. But we cannot be 100% sure. Do we have to apologize to friends and family before that night so that if we have done harm to them? You must adopt this practice of apologizing and asking for forgiveness from friends, family, and everyone. We'll come on to this as well in the next part about forgiveness. But in short, yes, before this night, and in fact, all the time, it should be a regular practice that we ask forgiveness from others And especially when we know we have done something, sometimes we feel proud that how will I go to that person and apologize? We should not. It's a key part of spirituality to receive forgiveness for any wrongs we have done. I've heard that the first night in your grave is considered as Laylatul Qadr. How so? I'm wondering, is it related? Sorry for that one. I don't know. I have not heard this, and I don't know of any hadith or any guidance from the Ahlul Bayt which say this. So I cannot comment. It is said that Sayyidah Fatima is Laylatul Qadr. Any comment? Okay, yes. I have a comment to make, but not now. Wait for the second part. Maybe there this question will be answered, because we are going to look at Ahlul Bayt and Laylatul Qadr. If we are not sure which night, then why do we stress so much on the 23rd, especially in the community? Well, we stress so much on the 23rd because there's more evidence pointing to the 23rd. Shia Islam is the Islam of the Ahlul Bayt. Ahlul Bayt have told us and have taught us and have trained us that whatever we do should be based on proof and likelihood. You see, sometimes we don't say that we know this for certain, but we say there's a likelihood. This is why you'll see in the books of Marajih, Ihtiyat wajib, Ihtiyat mustahab. Why do they say this? Why do they just give a fatwa? Well, sometimes they are not sure. They cannot be sure 100% because they don't have that evidence. But they say that it is likely. And when it's likely but not 100%, he'll give an ihtiyat. So we have more evidence which points to the 23rd. And that's from the Ahlul Bayt, of course. Okay, let us move on, I think. Right. So we have, okay, final one. The question is there. Taking out sadaqah in the name of a person from whom you need to ask for forgiveness. Well, it's a start, but it's not enough. You can do that, but it doesn't ensure your forgiveness. So if I have wronged someone and then I just take sadaqah in their name and I do a good deed on their behalf, sure, that is something, and it's something good, but it's not. It doesn't guarantee me their forgiveness. Anyway, let's go on now. Part 2. How can we interact and benefit from Laylatul Qadr? So this is now very much a spiritual discussion. There are different approaches to spirituality. For the purposes of this discussion, I want you to consider the philosophical approach, which is the concept of justice, which means that there are extremes on both sides of our character, and we can become, we can treat ourselves in different ways and become different types of people as a result. So we have 3 faculties: the intellectual faculty, the faculty of anger, and the faculty of desire. On one end of the spectrum, you have stupidity. On the other one, which is something that I find is growing in the youths a lot, is skepticism, because everything becomes a question and nothing is defined and nothing is certain. Therefore, everything is up for discussion. So that becomes skepticism. You cannot believe in anything because you're always questioning. The middle position and the true position of Ahlul Bayt is wisdom. Faculty of anger. On one hand, you can be a coward. On the other one, you can be aggressive. The middle position is bravery. Desires. Either you can deny all your desires and become sick, or you can indulge in them to the maximum level and become animalistic. The best position is to be chaste. Such a person who goes for the middle position is balanced and adil. And this will help us. If we can make ourselves adil and just and balanced, it will help us with our hajat as well. Ulama have said that on this night, du'as are greatly answered, except for the following. One that has upset his parents. Okay? That person will find it difficult to have their hajat answered. Second, someone who has severed family ties, Qadr rahim. They have somehow broken family ties, or they have not kept up with family ties. They will find it difficult to have their hajat answered. Third, someone who harbors hatred in their heart for someone that doesn't deserve hatred. That's a negativity that is not going to help your hajat. And fourth, someone that drinks alcohol. We go on now to Ahlul Bayt and their role. First of all, let us understand what is happening in this universe. Okay? So again, this is becoming a little bit spiritual, but these are the discussions which I love. So please bear with me. Man kana yuridu al-izzah falillahi al-izzatu jami'an. Whoever wishes to have honor or power should know that to Allah belongs all glory and power. Now, there is a concept that we have of things rising and falling between heaven and earth, or between this world and the next world. Of course, this is not physical. It's spiritual. إِلَيْهِ يَسْعَدُ الْكَلِمُ الطَّيِّبُ. Unto him ascend good words. وَالْعَمَلُ الصَّالِحُ يَرْفَعُهُ. And good deeds, it is he who exalts good deeds as well. So we have this notion of cosmic traffic between heavens and earth, between the different worlds. That traffic is continuous. It's always happening. Our prayers are being answered. Our prayers are lifting up. Our fasts, our ibadat, our thoughts, our beliefs. So we have two ways of looking at this traffic between heaven and earth. Is it like rainfall? Is it the first point there, maddi or tajafi? Is it like rainfall? So when we say rainfall, we say there's some water in the cloud, and as the cloud drops that water travels to earth. It's no longer in the cloud. It's now on earth. Or we have another way of looking at it called ma'anawi or tajalli. This is very special. This means that no, it is in both places. It hasn't just displaced itself from one to the other. It is in both places. And the best way of understanding this is a mirror. A mirror, you hold a mirror in front of you, you will see yourself in the mirror, but you yourself will remain where you were. In this sense, you are reciting a prayer here on earth, but its reflection is up there in a different form. Is it being accepted? That's up to you and your quality of prayer. Is it being rejected? It could be. Is it being appreciated? It could be. Is it being praised by angels? It could be. Is it being thrown back at you? It could be. So this cosmic traffic is continuous all the time between this world and the next world. But where does it go? Well, we have a very beautiful part of Ziyarat al-Jamia Kabira. Brothers and sisters, if you can recite Ziyarat al-Jamia Kabira, I think my akhirat will be done by your recitation of Ziyarat al-Jamia Kabira. It is so fantastic and wonderful. If you can spare once a week, one evening of 20 minutes to recite Ziyarat al-Jamia, I'm sure it will turn your life around. In Ziyarat al-Jamia, we have this sentence: Assalamu alaikum ya ahla baytin nubuwa wa mawdi al-risala wa mukhtalaf al-malaika. Mukhtalaf al-malaika. The point of the to and fro of angels. Rafto amade malaike. Rafto amade farishtigan. This is what we would say in Farsi. The to and fro, the coming and going of angels. They have a point. We say Ahlul Bayt are that point of the coming and going of the angels. So this traffic is being channeled through Mukhtalaful Malaika, through the Ahlul Bayt. Yes? So what is this traffic? What makes up this traffic? Iman and aqaid is the first thing. Your belief system, your aqidah, your faith. What do you believe in? How do you understand this world? That travels to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is seen by Allah. That is seen by the angels. And that raises you in your position with Allah. Because if you think about it, a person is no more than their beliefs and what they believe to be true. That is what forms a person. Secondly, ethics, akhlaq, our good traits. And thirdly, good deeds, our a'mal, our worship. These three elements, they gain a form and are then able to be presented to the owner in the form of heaven and heavenly bounty. So when we go in the Akhirat, you know this verse very well. إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. Whoever performs good will see it. Whoever performs bad will see it. Allah does not say they will see the result of it. Allah says they will see that thing itself. Today I pray namaz. I will see that namaz in Akhirat, in a form. Whether good or bad depends on how I recite it. So this is the position of Ahlul Bayt. The second thing is regarding Ahlul Bayt is that they have taught us that everything we do must be wajhullah, for the sake of Allah, for the face of Allah, for the pleasure of Allah. Wajh means pleasure or face or countenance. So kullu shay'in halikun illa wajhahu. La ilaha illahu kullu shay'in halikun illa wajhuhu ma indakum yanfad wa ma indallahi baq. All of these verses are saying the same thing, that everything is going to perish except that deed which was done for the pleasure of Allah. So wajhullah means doing something for the pleasure of Allah. So to obtain acceptance and continuity of our deeds, if we want to have our deeds travel with us through the worlds into the life hereafter, it must be for wajhullah. How is this achieved? Two ingredients are required: sincerity and accuracy of action. What if I do a worship which is very sincere, but Allah has never asked for it? Allah has said, no, you pray namaz like this, and I pray it wrongly. Well, He will reward me for my sincerity, but I would have got extra for the correctness of my namaz. So accuracy is important and sincerity is also important. So these 2 points come to us from Ahlul Bayt. Now, what happens with the personalities of the Ahlul Bayt? So angels are coming and going, administering the affairs of the Lord. فَالْمُدَبِّرَاتِ أَمْرًا, for example. They are going, they are coming, they are traveling, they are this messenger service between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and human beings. But where do they ascend? Where do they land? Where is their place? Where is their runway? It is the heart of the wali of Allah. In the Holy Prophet's time, it was the Holy Prophet. In Mawla Ali's time, it was Mawla Ali. In Imam Sadiq's time, it was Imam Sadiq. Imam Raza was the one in his time. And today, it is our 12th Imam. Ajalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Muhammad. And on the night of power, this is intensified. Because now, they are descending in their millions upon the heart of the 12th Imam. And all the angels, at least we can say those of the worldly order, are coming down and visiting the Imam with the affairs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have some ahadith. Let me narrate one or two to you. From Al-Kafi, we have this wonderful hadith. Ma min malakin yuhbituhu Allah fi amrin. There is not a single angel who comes down to earth bearing the order of Allah. Illa bada'a bil imam. Except that he begins his journey, or he begins his descent, or the first place that he visits on this earth is the Imam alayhi salam. فَأَرَادَ عَلَيْهِ وَإِنَّا مُخْتَلَفَ الْمَلَائِكَةِ فَعَرَضَ عَلَيْهِ وَإِنَّا مُخْتَلَفَ الْمَلَائِكَةِ. So he presents these matters to the Imam. He begins with the Imam and he presents these matters to the Imam. And surely the mukhtalaf, the point of coming and going of the angels, min indillah, from Allah, is to the sahibi hadha amr, is to the master of these affairs, which is the Imam. Dua Nudba. Aina babullahi alladhi minhu yu'ta. Where is that gate of Allah from which he is approached? That is the Imam, that is the Ahlul Bayt. Ziyarat Ali Yasin. Assalamu alayka ya Bab Allah. Peace be upon you, O gateway of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the angels are under the command of the Imam. And there is a reference there to the Battle of Badr. when they were under the commandment of the Holy Prophet. But now the successor of the Holy Prophet is the commander of the angels. They are under his command. There are other evidences we can also present. For example, Hazrat Zahra, salamullahi alayha, the daughter of the Holy Prophet, the queen of both the worlds. Her title is Muhaddatha because she was visited by angels. And it's not like she was given wahi. We would never say that. No Quranic verses were revealed to anyone except for Rasulullah. But they used to come and they used to speak to her. We have a very beautiful saying from one of the Imams, Kana Jibrailu ya'atiha. Jibrail used to come to her, فَيُحْسِنُ عَزَاءَهَا عَلَىٰ أَبِيهَا. And he would pass her the condolences of her father. And then it goes on with other things, but we don't have time at the moment to say the hadith in full. Jibrail, this wonderful, magnificent angel of Allah, we are told in hadith, Kana Jibrail. Jibrail was such a angel. إِذَا أَتَى النَّبِي. When he would come to the Prophet, قَعَدَ بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ قِعْدَةَ الْعَبْدِ. He would sit in front of the Prophet like a servant. This is the honor and the magnificent position of the Ahlul Bayt in front of the angels. وَكَانَ لَا يَدْخُلُ. Jibrail would never enter حَتَّى يَسْتَأْذِنُوهُ, until he would seek permission from Rasulullah. Even though he's been sent by Allah, Allah has sent him. He has every right to enter, but he would not, out of the etiquette and respect of Rasulullah. Imam Baqir alayhi salam was asked, do you know which night is Laylatul Qadr? He replied, كَيْفَ لَا نَعْرِفْ وَالْمَلَائِكَةُ تَتُوفُ بِنَا فِيهَا. He said, you are asking me if I know which is the night of Qadr? How can I not know? Because on that night, the angels are doing tawaf of us. There are so many of them. They are encircling us round and round. And Ruh, we've already discussed in one of the previous slides. I will not go back into that discussion. The other thing to bear in mind, brothers and sisters, we often think of Laylatul Qadr as the night where Allah is watching us. Of course, that is true. Angels are watching us. Of course, it is true. But do not be oblivious from this, that Ahlul Bayt are also watching us. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وقل اعملوا فسيرى الله عملكم. Say, perform actions. Allah will soon see this. وَرَسُولُهُ, and His Prophet. وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ, and the believers. The believers here are a reference to Ahlul Bayt. They look at us. They note what we are doing. They feel happy when we do a good deed. They feel sad when we do a bad deed. There's a hadith from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, which he says, مَا لَكُمْ تَسُوعُونَ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. What is it with you that you upset the Holy Prophet? Imam Sadiq alayhi salam was the 6th Imam. Holy Prophet has long since passed away from this world. He says to his people, what is it with you that you upset the Holy Prophet? They said to him, كَيْفَ نَسُوءُهُ. How do we upset him? He said, أَمَا تَعْلَمُونَ أَنَّ عَمَلَكُمْ تُعْرَضُ عَلَيْهِ. Do you not know that your deeds are presented to him? فَإِذَا رَأَى فِيهَا مَعْصِيَةً سَآهُ ذَلِكَ. When he sees a bad deed in your deeds, he becomes upset. فَلَا تَسُوءُوا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. Do not upset the Holy Prophet. وَسَرُّوهُ. Instead, do good deeds and make him happy. So, the cosmological realities, the realities of this night, here now we are going towards the summary, is that it is a night of revelation. It is a determination of certain things. There is wisdom of Allah. يُفْرَقُ كُلُّ أَمْرٍ حَكِيمٍ. It is majestic. There are trillions, billions, whatever, of angels. It is a night of worship. It is a night of spirituality. It's very important. The orders of the Lord are carried out, and there is utter peace on this night. So, what should we do to achieve success on this night? Number one, we should achieve justice in our souls. We should try to make our souls as decent and good and balanced as possible. We should strive for perfection. We should get sincerity by linking with the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt and having our deeds pass through them with their guidance, with their etiquette, with their akhlaq. And we get our accuracy from them as well. Regarding Ahlul Bayt, they are the spiritual masters of this night, especially the personality of our 12th Imam. Everything starts with them, everything will end with them. They are the masters of the affairs, they are the ones to carry out the affairs of Allah, and they are the true link between the earth and the heavens, and between the physical and the metaphysical reality. So, a point regarding some of the a'mal which we are going to do. Everything we've discussed so far will be reflected in the a'mal which we do on that night. Number one, ghusl. Ghusl shows what? Purity, cleanliness, an angelic spirit. Water is soft. You know, Agha Qaraati, may Allah give him a long life. He told us this once. He said, be like, when you look at wudu, when you go for wudu and you look at the water, spend a moment and think. And he said, be like that water. Tahirun mutahharun. It is pure and it purifies other things. So be like that water, be soft in your nature. There are prayers, there is salat, there is namaz, that shows devotion, spirituality, obedience. There is of course Quran, reciting Quran, opening Quran, putting the Quran on your head. That is linking to the utmost source of knowledge. Forgiveness, to be forgiven by Allah, you must forgive others. Cursing the killers of Imam Ali on the first two nights, 19th and 21st. This is so that we can link with a true example of perfection, and we can distance ourselves from his enemies. And we will be disgusted by anything other than Ali, and we will be madly in love with all that is Ali. And we have the intercession of Ahlul Bayt with the recitations, Bika Ya Allah, Bika Ya Muhammad, and all of these different recitations. So that brings us to the end. Iltimas al-Dua, please remember me in your prayers. May Allah forgive us, grant us acceptance of our a'mal, bless our marhumin, hasten the reappearance of 12th Imam. May He destroy the evil group of ISIS and its other manifestations. And may He grant us all a successful Laylatul Qadr, and grant us all sustenance in His way. I'm here now for any more questions. With one salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Notes, I'm not sure about notes, but I think you'll have access to the PowerPoint slides. Session on angels. Inshallah, I can speak to Sheikh about that. Yeah, Quran on our heads as part of the a'mal. So within a human being, the most important aspect of a human being, and which separates us from animals, is aql, and intellect. And intellect is always regarded as the brain or the mind. So what we're doing is we are showing Allah, we're showing ourselves, and we're showing our nafs that my intellect cannot be controlled by my desires. My intellect is going to be controlled by the Quran. I will not get the Quran to mold itself to me. I will mold itself to the Quran. It is my leader, it is my guide, it is my everything to me is the Holy Quran, and of course together with the Ahlul Bayt. So that is the significance of putting Quran on our heads, and Wallahu A'lam. Yeah, I will put the previous slide. Yeah. Are we for ISIS or against ISIS? Okay, that's a little bit surprising. Anyone who is a Muslim and anyone that knows about Islam will know that Islam and ISIS are two different things. ISIS is the absolute opposite of Islam. They are full of hatred, anger, barbaric brutality. Islam is totally the opposite. It is compassion, it is mercy, it is living together. It is appreciating one another. I pray again for ISIS to be destroyed. Will recording be on the Ali site? I do believe so, but I suppose that you'll have to follow up with the moderators. Physical and spiritual sides of putting Quran on the head. We've just discussed that. It is basically to show that it is your leader. It is there to mold your intellect. Your intellect should be according to Quran. I would like to know more about the veils. Yes, veils need a separate discussion, sister. Veils are a very interesting topic indeed. I've spoken about the veils. I don't know, it might be on YouTube or something, but inshallah, maybe on a future one, I can speak to the respected brothers and sisters of Ali and see if we can do something. There is another suggestion that we do another session on this, with maybe focusing on certain areas more than others, because at the end, actually, we were a little bit rushed. I don't know if you would like that kind of thing, then please do let us know, and especially the ALI Academy, and maybe they can facilitate it. Okay. It's recommended to keep our children awake. Would this be on all 3 nights or just focus on 23rd? I mean, young children. Well, you know what I would say regarding children is that quality is more important than quantity. If you're keeping them awake just for the sake of keeping them awake, and it's not really adding to them much, then I would say you shouldn't do that, because you don't want your children to grow up and have this negative impression of Laylatul Qadr, that, we were made to stay awake and we were tired and we didn't want to stay awake. But if it's adding value to them in some way and you're able to do it, then why not? Not only Laylatul Qadr, but other nights as well. But that is something you have to judge as a parent, of what other duties and responsibilities they have, school, etc. That is something that you would have to judge. Yeah. You mentioned we have to prepare ourselves before Night of Qadr. What preparation do we have to do? Well, anything that can boost your spiritual status, your mindset, your attitude. You can do things like give sadaqah. You can spend more time in ibadat. You can recite more Quran. You can be more reflective. You can ask for forgiveness. You can undo any bad deeds which you've done. You can, if you haven't paid khums and your khums is due, pay it. As much goodness as you can do, because you want to be as good as possible, because Laylatul Qadr is a good night. So it doesn't match that an evil person can benefit from a good thing, because they're evil. So you try and make yourself as good as possible and as pure as possible. Are there any resources that we could use for the A'mals for children ages 12 to 17? I'm sorry, I wouldn't know that. I wouldn't know that because I don't have children of that age. My children are still quite young. I don't know about that age resources. Maybe someone else can answer that. how do we access this webinar, including the slides again? I'll allow the Ali to answer that. Okay, I think let me sign off now. Thank you all for attending and listening, and iltimas dua.